Trump can't just unilaterally make cannabis Schedule 3. It's not something that can be done by executive order. So we all know this. He can start the ball rolling. He can create an executive order that mandates that they start looking at this and that they put it on the front burner. But even then, the speed at which that would happen is totally unknown. Second of all, we've covered this so many times. Moving to Schedule 3 would mean that cannabis would go into the pharmacy distribution model, and that every dispensary would be required to get a FDA license to distribute cannabis, and the likelihood of that even happening is super low. So it would change the game dramatically. The dispensary model would probably go out the window.
It's already going out the window. I mean, I don't know. What's that?
As far as, I mean, we were running state programs in all of these states with a federally illegal substance. And so these state laws, whether or not they go out the window, that's speculation. And there's not a single thing on anything that we've seen in paper or in writing that stands behind that. Okay. So a lot of people are a fear of that. And I do understand that fear. And I'm not saying the fear is not there and that it's not a possibility.
It's more than speculation. It's a little more than speculation, because Schedule 3 drugs already exist.
I understand that, but we already have regulations for how the state is going to exist and how the state is going to have these drugs. If a state wanted to have a steroid regulation, in theory, they could. They could develop that. That's a Schedule 3 drug. They could develop specific regulations for the state. Like we're not having like.
Oh, I would love to see the states fight and stand up and try to create their own regulations that are distinct.
Some of the states will, because they're so heavily reliant, especially a place like California, on these tax dollars as well as these licensing fees. I think you'll see a lot of big states getting big money from the weed game right now stand up that they're not going to lose that money and have some sort of parallel and offer the ability to have medical weed at a medical rate. I don't think it's going to take away 280E like a lot of people think for the recreational world, because it will be medicine, right? The medicine will not have 280E. Fine, under your recommendation, under your doctor's prescription, whatever that might be. And it would still not be a prescription, correct, doctors? It would still be considered recreation under 3?
Well, for a prescription to happen, you need to go through the FDA process and get it approved as a pharmaceutical. So, yeah, it would be a prescription in the end. It's a long process. The process can take 10, 20 years. So it's not a very, In other words, it's going to give plenty of time for the hemp industry, the illicit market, and even the regulated cannabis market to get their act together. But the regulated cannabis market is having a hard time here in California.
Here's my concept, and this is low-lying fruit, right? This doesn't need new regulation or new anything. So all they would really need to do, and they can do this by executive order, actually not even executive order. I think all they would need would be a letter from RFK, Secretary of Health and Human Services, to carve cannabis out of Schedule 3. I think they can do that, right? So I think that's kind of like, Trump's Hail Mary. The real question is, well, first of all,
Obama doesn't want him to do that.
I've said it before, moving a plant that people can grow themselves to Schedule 3 is absolutely fucking ridiculous and will fail all day long if patients need to rely on a doctor's prescription, sorry doc, to get Schedule 3 mids grown by an MSO at Walgreens. It just ain't going to happen, folks.
God,
the crap market is going to win all day long. But I think what they can do, Dr. T, tell me if this is right. I think what they can do is they can take a drug off the schedule, and I think they don't even need presidential executive order to do so. I think this is how they removed caffeine, because, the FD&C Act, which, we've talked about before, prohibits the use of an active ingredient of an FDA-approved medicine, of which THC and CBD are, for inclusion into food, feed, or cosmetics. So food, gummies, tinctures, beverages, all that, feed, dog treats, dog food, cosmetics like topicals. So you can't put that into a product and sell it over state lines. It's interesting that it says overstate, right, for interstate commerce. Again, I think they had to do this for caffeine, so Coca-Cola could put caffeine into Mountain Dew and Coca-Cola and the 5-hour energy drink. Caffeine's an active ingredient of some FDA-approved weight loss bullshit drugs, right? Dr. T. I
And,
forget what they are.
headaches and migraines. Yeah.
Yeah, and migraines. Well, so I think that to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is kind of like the low lying thing. So Trump could just go to RFK and say, remove that from the schedule. And I think they can do that because I think HHS somehow has jurisdiction over that, but I could be wrong.
I don't see that happening though. And I understand to Nicole's point that it's speculation and it is a pang of fear that a lot of people are holding in their bodies, especially after everything we've all been through. My core concern, there's a few things. One, I agree with you, Dr. Mark. He could do that. I think that would be the very last thing he does if
It's
he
easy.
was
It's just a
pushed.
letter. Sean,
Yeah,
it's
I
just a
know it's
letter.
easy. I
It's
know
so
it's easy.
fucking easy, right? Write a letter.
It's easy.
You think he could do that
but
or have a secretary do
they're
that?
not
Or
gonna, but that's not the game.
Cheryl Hines could do that maybe.
Doing what's easy and doing what's common sense isn't the game. What I think is actually going to happen is he will save that. That is an ace that you save in your back pocket when you want to pull it out at the end of a campaign, at the end of elections, or whenever he's going to need a populist piece to pull back that popularity thing, because he does use these tools and levers as strategies to influence the general public, the media, and then how the whole mess of this is construed. So that letter, he'll keep that in his back pocket, no matter how easy it is. That the easier it is, the more likely it's going to be the last thing they do. What I think will probably happen is we'll see reschedule, and they're going to attempt to capture this. They're going to attempt to make the medical capture. This is like their first entry into the cannabis game, period. So they think that they're going to crush the trap. They think that they're going to stop hemp, and they might be successful in some of these elements at first. It'll take a little bit, and we do still have some time. There are a lot of operators who are still looking at this 1 year runway when it comes to the hemp ban and what we can do to just try to free the plant entirely, deschedule or bust. The problem is I think that they're still going to try to capture it. We're going to get rescheduled. They're going to try to bleed everyone out slowly in their state markets. And then what Dr. Mark, what you're saying about these products would then, like caffeine, you would need permission or we would need to do something else. I am a little bit worried if it gets rescheduled and it has to go through FDA, that even though, to Nicole's point, the states have set up programs, those programs would now be federally non-compliant with the standard that has to be the minimum standard that has to be met for the FDA. And that is where I think they're going to actually get us on the backside.